Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. Welcome back to Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. As I made my video about fall vegetable gardens and how we can extend our gardening all the way into late fall. Many of you fellow viewers and gardeners have reached out to me telling me that as the fall season approaches and comes, many of you fall into despair. Why? Because beginning of fall always to many of us signifies the end to our gardening. So in today's video, I want to let you guys know that there's no need to despair. In today's video, I'm going to go over all the fun and exciting things that us gardeners can and in fact should do the entire fall season to help us keep our hands dirty and to keep gardening. As September and October shift into cooler temperatures, many of our minds might automatically shift to potting up our containers with mums or just simply tidying up our gardens. But I want to tell you guys, my fellow gardeners, that is absolutely not all that we can do. Not only September, October, the entire fall. There's so many exciting things that we need and can and should do in our home gardens. Fall is not only a perfect time to pot up our containers with mums or tidy up our gardens. Fall is also the perfect time to plant lots of spring blooming bulbs, as well as plant those beautiful years-lasting perennials into our home gardens. Perennials are the perfect plants to plant into your home garden in the fall season. And you know why, guys? Because when and if you plant your perennials in the fall season, it gives them plenty of time to get rooted up in your home garden and to bring that beautiful pop of color to your home garden come the spring and next year's summer seasons, and then years and years to come as perennials come back and show us the beauty that they have in them year after year. Also, by planting those spring blooming bulbs in the fall season, you're getting that head start, that jump start on that beautiful pop of color in your home garden come early spring. From those beautiful, fragrant and bright colored tulips to your hyacinth, to those amazing, large, stunning, fragrant peonies, to those beautiful daffodils. You name it, guys. There are so many varieties of spring blooming bulbs that you can pop into the soil of your home garden come the fall season. For those of you guys that are always looking for that pop of color, come early spring, fall season is the perfect and ideal time to add those spring blooming bulbs as well as perennials to your home garden. And perennials will bloom spring and all summer long for you. And in fact, some perennials will even continue blooming for you all the way into the following fall season. Layered large blooms from your peonies or velvety ruffles from your iris and carnival pops of color from our daylilies can be the start and the show stoppers for the flower gardens and our home landscape, guys. Fall is the best time to invest in these reliable, proven, and dependable perennials, as they will be the showstoppers in your home gardens. Remember, guys, perennials bring the beauty and the fragrance to your home gardens for many and many years to come, as perennials are those flowers that keep coming back and blooming for us year after year. In the fall, many of these flowers are available as either bulbs, bare roots, or even full grown living plants. What a wide variety to choose from. You could choose to grow them from bulbs. You could choose to grow them from bare roots, or even you could just pop them into your ground and continue enjoying them. Regardless of how you choose to grow your plants, whether it's from a bulb or bare roots or a fully grown plant that you bought at a nursery, always read the instructions, the labels on your plant, as the planting instructions may differ depending on the variety of the plant that you purchased. For example, the bare root, the peony bare roots, the eyes of their bare roots have to be almost exposed on the soil surface. Otherwise, you will never see your peony plants bloom. So remember, always read those planting instructions, as they differ year after year, depending on the variety of the plant that you're purchasing. The next fun and exciting thing to do in the fall season is to plant our spring blooming bulbs. Spring blooming bulbs are usually available, whether it's in the garden centers or online, around the perfect time to plant them in your garden zone. So even if you pre-order your spring blooming bulbs, ideally they will not be shipped to you until it is essentially the time, the correct time, to plant them in the gardening zone in which you live. So here in gardening zone 7A, I usually get my spring bulbs, whether it's at the garden center or even in the mail when I pre-order them online, sometime mid-September. Before mid-September, I usually never see them in person in the garden centers. And even if I pre-ordered them back in July, they would never ship me spring blooming bulbs prior to about 2nd or 3rd week of September. For those of you dire to see that pop of color as early as possible in the spring season, maybe as early as when the snow is just starting to melt, why don't you give purple crocus and multicolored daffodils a try? Those guys are fighters. They are one of the first flowers to come up and to bloom for us, sometimes even when there's still light snow on the ground. A vibrant tulip bed filled with tulips will complete your spring spectacle. Imagine the view. Imagine the colors, the fragrance. I love tulips. Different varieties, different sizes, different colors, you name it. Some call me a tulip addict, actually. Every single year, I add new tulip varieties to my home garden. And come early spring, I start to see my tulips come up, then start to bloom. And I cannot get enough of that color and that fragrance. And for those of you who want to see that pop of color keep going and going the entire spring season, try getting different varieties of tulips. As you guys may know, some tulips are early variety tulips, meaning they bloom early in the spring season. Some are mid-season varieties, and some are late season. So when you mix all those three together and plant all of them in your home garden, you will see that continuous pop of color. And those tulips keep blooming and blooming and blooming for you all the way through late spring. But again, if you do want to see that pop of color come early spring, mid-spring, or even late spring, the time to add that pop of color to your home garden is in the fall season. So it's right around the corner. Pop in those spring blooming bulbs to your home garden, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Come an end to that drenching, cold, soggy winter. Come that spring season, you will see that amazing and that long-awaited pop of color. For those of you wanting to add that unexpected pop of color to your home garden, consider adding some Itoh peony varieties to your home garden. I have a few videos on my channel where I show you exactly how to grow Itoh peonies from bare roots. I have a few Itoh peonies varieties growing in my home garden, and each one is a stunner, from yellow to coral to pink to raspberry colored colors. They're absolutely stunning flowers, and they will be rewarding you for many years to come. For those of you who don't like growing peonies, or maybe peonies have not been adjusted to the gardening zone and where you live, try growing different varieties of echinacea, guys. And yes, echinacea should be planted in the fall season if you want to see those beautiful flowers come next summer. There's so many different varieties, from the reds, orange, yellow, pink, even green colored flowers. Give echinaceas a try. And they're so drought and heat tolerant, I can't even begin to tell you. And another great thing about echinacea is that even when they dry up and start to die out, you don't need to prune them back. Leave them there. Let it be a food feast for birds in your gardening area. Birds love eating on those seeds, and it's excellent food source for them in the late fall and early winter seasons. Another great perennial to consider planting in the fall season are a hardy hibiscus. Yes, guys, I have lots of those beautiful, stunning flowers growing in my rose garden area. In fact, I just made a video for you guys giving you a full tour of my home garden in the month of August, and I gave you guys a full peek of my huge, ginormous, gorgeous hibiscus flowers. And now there's so many varieties. Some come with even deep, very deep purple, stunning colored leaves. So there's so many varieties to choose from. Another great thing that us home gardeners can do in the fall is actually adjust to the climate in the gardening zone in which we live. Say some of us have just recently moved to a new home or a new gardening zone, and maybe this first year was a struggle for us. Maybe we were unfamiliar with the climate in this gardening zone. Maybe we thought we knew all about it, but this summer has taught us a lesson, a lifelong lesson. So fall will be the perfect time to adjust to this new climate. Maybe you guys can think of some drought and heat tolerant perennials to plant in your home garden. Isn't that just an awesome idea? That come next year, there will be no or as little of a struggle as possible. I know how I get frustrated when something happens to the plants in my home garden, when I'm thinking that everything is going perfectly and then my plants start to get disease or to die out. Come to realize that maybe these plants were not the perfect plants for my home garden. Maybe they're not ideal to grow in the gardening zone in which I live. Just because a garden center sells a certain plant does not mean that that plant is perfect for your home garden. So fall is the perfect time to adjust to the climate and to the gardening zone in which you live. So next year you can have maximal success in your home garden. If your home garden is already packed with perennials, and some of you might be thinking, why should I be adding more perennials? Well, guess what, guys? Fall is also the perfect season to prepare our garden beds for the next spring season. Yes, and right now, many of us might think, oh my goodness, our garden beds are still packed with delicious vegetables and herbs. What is she talking about? Well, guys, fall is just around the corner, and it is the perfect season. It is the ideal season to prepare our raised garden beds for the next spring season. And it's also the perfect time to prep some of our spent blooming perennials. It's time to prune down those perennials that are done blooming for this year. Another great and amazing gardening task to do in the fall season is to actually divide our perennials. For those of us who have perennials growing in our home garden for years and years, as I have over here, you could see how ginormous they got. These are some of my hosta plants, and they're absolutely huge. I mean, each hosta is, I don't know, at least 5 feet wide. So as soon as the hosta is done for the year. So you cut the leaves back completely to the ground and you carefully can dig in that root system. And fall is the perfect time to separate, to divide our perennials and potentially to move a part of this plant, a part of this one plant's root system to another area. And that would be the perfect time to do this. Some of the other perennials that you can divide at the root system in the fall are our black-eyed Susans or even our daylilies. You have to dig around carefully and then shake off or hose off the excess dirt. And some of our plant's roots will pull apart with a gentle pull. But overgrown ones, the huge ones with a massive root system, might require a sharp knife to cut that root system. But don't worry guys, fall, when these plants are done for the growing season, when they start to go into dormancy, is the perfect time to separate, to divide your plants. So maybe you can have more uniform garden. As you can see, this plant is smaller and this one is absolutely ginormous. This guy is a monster. So if you would want to move a part of this plant and maybe plant it somewhere else in your home garden, fall would be the time to do that. Fall season is also a perfect time to trim back some of our perennials. By fall season, many of our perennials will be done growing and blooming for that year. They will start to die back and go into their dormancy phase. So any of those dead, dying, droopy, or spent leaves should be cut in the fall season. You do not want to leave any foliage, any spent, any dead foliage to overwinter. As when the snow and the rains will come, that dead foliage will foster disease and pests. That debris on those spent plants attracts slugs, bugs, fungus, and even can harvest larvae in it. So come next year's growing season, your plant might never come back due to that disease and those pests that it was fighting all fall and winter long. Peonies, daylilies, hosta, all of those need to be cut back in the fall season. There is a whole list of perennials that goes on and on that not only should but needs to be pruned and cut back in the fall season to prevent disease and pests. But there's also some of those perennials that you need to leave alone and not touch, as those guys need to stay intact, and if you do prune them or cut them, they will never come back for you the following year. Again, some perennials, leaves and stems and branches should be left untouched, as it helps protect the plant over the winter season, and their stems, their leaves, and their seed heads provide food and shelter for birds in your gardening zone. One example of that is echinacea. You can leave that flower untouched. By the way, some people refer to echinacea as a coneflower, but if you leave that seed packet untouched, the stem will turn brown, the seed head will turn brown. But guess what, guys? The birds will eat those seeds in that seed head all fall and all winter long. But your plant will be safe. It will be not harmed, and it will come back for you by itself on its own come next growing season. Another gardening task to do in the fall season is to add mulch and or insulation in forms of leaves to your home garden, especially if you live in those colder gardening zones. You want to protect not only the soil in your home garden, but as well as some of your perennials. Some perennials, if your air temperatures get too cold in the winter, might suffer. Even if you prune them back, the root system is still there below the soil surface. So you do want to add mulch, straw, or even insulation protection in form of leaves to the garden beds or to the soil surface where your perennials grow. Definitely consider the new perennials that you might have just planted this fall season. They're more delicate. They can suffer come very, very cold temperatures. Mulch, straw, leaves can keep that soil temperature a little higher. It can help protect those delicate, those vulnerable new perennials that you just planted. Plus, you wasted all this time, the money, the effort. You want to see those plants come back for you and bloom for you year and year to come. Come end of the fall season, and at this point, many of us feel that it's time to put our tools away, our garden tools away, time to put our gardening gloves away and just sit there inside in the house and dwell. No, guys, that would be the perfect time to start planning and thinking about the spring season. What crops do we want to grow that year? What seeds do we want to sow come early spring? Do we have all the necessary supplies that we need? Do we have the seed starting mix? Do we have the seed starting trays? Do we have the heat lamps, the heat mats? You name it. Fall or end of fall is the perfect time to think ahead. I always sit down, make a list of all the veggies and all the herbs that I want to grow the following spring season. I always make a note of what I grew in the past. Was it a success? Was it a failure? And there's nothing wrong with saying that. Every gardener has some pluses and some minuses. So if I know a certain vegetable did not do good or did worse than I anticipated, chances are I will not grow it again in my home garden. But those veggies that outdid themselves, those herbs that I kept harvesting day after day after day, are definitely going back into my home garden come next spring. This is it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. In today's video, we spoke about all the gardening tasks that us home gardeners can and indeed should do come the fall season. No need to despair, guys. Just because fall is here doesn't mean that we still cannot get our hands nice and dirty in our home gardens. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, if you like the content of this video, show me that support by clicking thumbs up below. Leave your comments in the comment section below as well, guys. I love talking to each and every single one of you. I respond to your comments personally. Let me know what gardening tasks do you do in your home gardens come the fall season. Do you already have a plan for the next spring season? I already have some thoughts in my head, guys. I always like to think ahead when it comes to gardening. For those of you who haven't yet done so, don't be shy, guys. Join me on my gardening channel. Subscribe to my channel today. Start with clicking the subscribe button below. If you like the content of my videos and want to see more, click the bell icon as well. YouTube will notify you every single time I'll upload a new gardening video. Thank you so much for being with me here today. Be well, stay healthy, happy gardening, guys, and I'll see you again in my new upcoming gardening videos. Bye, guys.